Hey everyone, Brian here, and welcome back to the Java course. Now, this week, we're actually done with the series. This is our last big episode, so if you pass it, then congratulations. So, today, we're going to be learning about interfaces and enums, also known as enumerators. So, what exactly does that mean? Well, we'll be learning about interfaces, obviously. We'll also be learning about how abstract methods and classes work, since they also deal with interfaces. And then we'll be talking about how interfaces are utilized in actual classes. Next, we'll be talking about enumerators and why we use them. And it turns out that enums and classes actually have a lot of similarities. So we're going to be discussing the similarities and the differences between the two, as well as the advantages and disadvantages. Alright, so first of all, we have interfaces. So what exactly is an interface? Well, an interface is sort of like a template for a class, but it creates abstract methods. And abstract methods, we'll get into that in a second, but what you have to know for now is that abstract methods only have their headers. Now, there are a couple things that we need to remember with interfaces. First of all, interfaces cannot be instantiated as abstract classes, and they just aren't classes in general, they're interfaces. Now, interfaces can be extended by other classes, meaning that you can have an interface that extends a class. However, you cannot have a class that extends an interface. They can only be utilized using the implements keyword, which we'll get to in a second. So this is an abstract method down here in the picture, and abstract methods only contain their headers. As you can see here, they only contain the name, return type, scope, and parameters. In this case, the abstract method is the method called b. If a class uses abstract methods, then it must be deemed as an abstract class. This means that no class can have abstract methods unless it is itself an abstract class. So how do we utilize interfaces? Well, to use interfaces, we use the implements keyword. So for example, I have a class that I typed out really quickly here. We have public class rectangle, and it implements drawing, which is an interface. That was shown 2 slides earlier, I believe. Here it is. So it has a method called void draw. Alright. So now when we create the class rectangle, it has to have the method draw because we implemented the interface drawing. So the abstract method is basically used as a template, and then when it's implemented into a class, then the class needs to have that method in there. So, and it defines its own, I guess you could say, body of its code there. So, for example, here we have system.out.println, do this drawing thing, and that's what the rectangle does whenever the draw method is called. It's pretty cool. Alright, so now let's get into enumerators. So, what are enumerators? Well, enumerators are variables that take on an enumerated set of values. I get it, because it's like enumerators can actually have constructors and methods. So down here we have an example of an enum called time. And time has 2 values, day and night. So in our main method, what we're actually doing is we're looping through the enum, and we're printing out every single possibility of an enum. So if we were to run this, we would get day, night in the console. Now, why would we want to use these things? Well, enums are actually very powerful when it comes to using a set number of constants, and they are also allowed in switch statements, which I don't think I've talked about in the course, but you are always welcome to look it up yourself. Now, enums can be used in place of string constants and integer types. So for example, if you have a game and you want to tell the system what stage your game is in, so you could say like game stage 1, game stage 2. But that would be a little weird. So instead, we can create enums to define the game state. For example, main menu, main game, pause screen, etc. Also, enums group things, and we all like Unity. I have no idea why I put this in this slide. Last but not least, here is a little chart that tells us the difference between enumerators and classes, because they look kind of similar. Well, enumerators can kind of be classified as mini classes, but they can't extend classes like normal classes can. However, they can actually implement interfaces, which is very interesting. And enums also have default methods, so value of, toString, and clone. Another point that I haven't added onto the slides here is that enums can actually have their own methods, so you can return an enum from a method. Now, actual classes are actual classes, of course. They can extend other classes, they can implement other classes, however they do not... oh my goodness. They do not have default methods, meaning that they don't have methods that are just automatically coded in for them. We have to make those ourselves. Now, let's just get into the programming section. So, I'm probably going to put a cut here, and Coding Brian will probably take from here. Alright, see you in a bit. Hey everyone, so Coding Brian here, and I am tackling this issue 6 hours after I recorded the first recording, but that is okay. So, I decided that we're going to tackle both enums and implementation at the same time. So here, first of all, we have our typical, file path. So if we open our package here, we have 3 things. 2 of these are .java files, and they're classes. Now this one is also a .java file, but if you open it, you find out that it's an interface. Now, we talked about interfaces earlier. So interfaces have headers and their own variables, or rather abstract variables. So in this case, the interface drawing has a single header method known as draw. So now if we were to go to the rectangle class and implement drawing, that means that the rectangle class has to have the draw method. Now if I were to erase the draw method, it would actually give me an error, and it would say, okay, well the class isn't in there, so you have to add the unimplemented methods, because you have to add the methods that were implemented. So if we just press this, it gives us the draw method. So that's what implementation is used for. It's more of a template for classes. And then if we go to main here, then we have our example for enums. So enums are usually defined like this, day and night, and then you have a certain amount of ways to use this. Now here I just printed out each enum, but you could say like time, enum time day, and that would be time.day. There we go. So now we just created a new enum. So we can say if enum time is equal to time.day, then line, it is daytime. And if we execute this correctly, to print out, it is daytime, because our enum is day. So that's how enums work, and you can think of them kind of as integers, sort of, but they also have constants. So it's kind of a weird mix between an integer constant and a string constant, and this becomes really useful when you're trying to develop in certain scenarios, such as game programming, when you want to program the main menu. So you can have like public enum game state, and I'll be like, not game stats, game state, and then we can have main menu, and we could have pause screen, and then we basically just say if the game state is this, then project this, and that's where enums become really useful. So with that being said, I guess I'll do the conclusion myself, since Slides Brian has done it for the past couple weeks now. So we are now done with our official series for the Java course. I will probably make a couple of bonus videos talking about documentation and how to read it, because that becomes very important when you're actually programming projects. And hopefully after that, we plan to do some kind of series, possibly for game development or some other thing related to Java. And as of now, we are also planning Gen Code live streams for programming, and I'm really excited to actually see that come up. So make sure to stay tuned for that, and congratulations on completing the Java course. With that being said, I'll see you guys all later. Bye!